Hi, I'm Tasha. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I've had type 1 diabetes for 25 years. For the last 2.5 years, I've been following a fruit-based diet, and my diabetic retinopathy is reversing. I've got the best diabetes control I've ever had. My last A1C was 5.6, which is fantastic. And I've gotten off of my epilepsy medication. I don't have low blood sugar seizures like I used to have. The reason that I'm making this video is that I have a friend who recently started posting on diabetes message boards. She follows the same diet that I do and just wants to present hope and healing to people with diabetes. Now, the response that she got was just, she was bashed, pretty hard, and as someone who has experienced that myself, posting on message boards, forums, groups, I understand what it feels like. It really, words are really powerful, and I know that I left some of those discussions just feeling like, oh my gosh, am I crazy? Am I crazy to be doing this? Until I get out in the real world, living the new life that I live on this fruit-based diet, and I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. But words are very powerful, and I wanted to present this for those of you who want to share the message about, healing and reversing diabetes, improving type 1 control. For those of you who want to present this information to diabetics, I just want to tell you where we're coming from so that you can have this in mind and understand that it's not personal when you get attacked, and maybe just be creative in coming up with ways that will be, that diabetics will be more receptive to what you have to say. And so I'll share a little bit of my story and a little bit of my experience to maybe help you in this quest. So, first of all, diabetics who've had diabetes for a long time, or even for a short time, constantly have people telling us what to do. And, I can remember working in a nursing home, and in order to work in this nursing home, I had gone through a nurse aid training, and we learned, as part of our book, there was a little section on diabetes, and so we learned what we're supposed to do for the diabetic patients, etc. So I got a little training. Well, working in a nursing home, having type 1 diabetes, there's all these people who are interested in health and interested in helping people, and they would see me eating something or doing something and tell me I shouldn't be doing that as a diabetic, and that I needed to do such and such, and I would look at them and be like, are you serious? I've had type 1 diabetes for, 15 years, and you read a little thing in a book, and you think you know how to tell me to live my life? And, so it may have been that, or sometimes there'll be something on TV or a news article, and so people get excited and they want to help and tell me this or tell me that, and so on the one hand, you have people telling you what to do your whole life, or being kind of like the police around you, watching your move, like, oh, I don't know if you should be doing that, oh, blah, blah, blah. And it can be very, it can really wear a person down, and that's just outsiders. Then there's like, everyone lives in, well, not everyone lives in a family, but for those of us who live, like, maybe you live with our parents, or with our spouse, or, with roommates who, those people love us and care about us, and they're concerned if we might be doing something that could cause us to die, which is understandable. They obviously don't want us to die, and they want us to take the best care of ourselves that we can. Now, as the one having diabetes, it's a lot to take in. I mean, everything affects diabetes, and diabetes affects everything. You know, we might say, oh, I can still live a life and diabetes doesn't have to control me. Well, yeah, but sometimes in order to do that, we kind of have to shut off our brain a little bit and be like, you know what, I'm just going to have fun. I spend so much time dealing with, you know, how high blood sugars make me feel, or low blood sugars make me feel, or, you know, what caused it, and analyzing it and fixing it, and, you know, everything affects blood sugar, like stress, hormones, you know, social situations, heat, sickness, exercise, foods. Like, there are just so many variables. You can never be perfect, and so when dealing with this, and then having people like constantly telling you what to do, it can just be like, you just want to block out the world and be like, stop telling me what to do. So that's one thing. And also, like, when you're newly diagnosed, everybody wants to tell you what to do. So, you know, either for a long-termer or a newly diagnosed person, it can still just be like, leave me alone. So that's one thing. Now, another thing on message boards and forums and groups is that you'll come across you know, people who are trying to make a buck off of diabetics, because diabetes is really a market now, because everybody's got it, everybody knows somebody with it, and so there's scams and, you know, pyramid sellers or whatever, and so these are constantly coming up on the message boards, and people with diabetes are just like, ugh, it's another one of those scammers. You know, so it's kind of like, if you're coming in with offering hope and healing, telling them that you can heal through this diet, and you get that response, you know, don't fault the diabetics. Like, how do you, it just kind of gets to be old, like, oh great, another person trying to make money off us or whatever. And so even if you're coming in, you're not trying to make money, you're just trying to tell people to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. You know, that's going to be one reason you're going to be met with resistance. Here's another reason. If you've ever been in a 12-step program, you'll know that, for instance, alcoholics help other alcoholics. Sex addicts help other sex addicts. Drug addicts help other drug addicts, because those are the people who know where you've been, and now they've gotten past it, and that's somebody who will listen to. Like, so as a diabetic, it's kind of the same thing. You know, I really don't want to hear from somebody who hasn't had to deal with everything that I've had to deal with, and they're telling me, this is what you need to do to get better. I really want to hear from somebody who knows exactly my experience and has gotten out of it themselves. You know, that's not always the case, but it's really nice to hear from other people who have shared your experience. So if you're somebody without diabetes and you're coming in offering a solution and hope and help, just know that that's going to be something, that's going to be a wall, an obstacle. And it has nothing to do with you. It's nothing personal. It's just human nature. Now, let me tell you about when I first heard about a raw food diet for healing. My response was, first of all, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you know, I've been told something my whole life by all my doctors, by the diabetes magazines, by, you know, everything I learned at diabetic camp. It's like, when you hear something your whole life, and then somebody comes in saying that you can heal from diabetes, you can heal from cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, schizophrenia, Crohn's disease, PCOS, it's just like, no, I've been heard you can't heal from that stuff. Once you get it, you've got it. So it's really just, it's a shock. I mean, that's the initial barrier, is it's just something new. Another thing is that my response was, I really didn't want to hope in something and then be disappointed, because, you know, as I mentioned, with all that, just the weight of having diabetes, and it's like, you know, if I ever stopped to think about all the stuff involved, I would just kind of go crazy, so I can only deal with one little piece of it at a time. But, you know, to have that whole thing and just being like, oh my gosh, and hear about healing, it's like, oh my gosh, it's just like, oh, it's too good to be true. I don't even want to consider it, because if I think about it and then it doesn't work, I will have gotten my hopes up, and I will just be disappointed even worse than I was. So that was the reason I just was like, no, I don't want to get my hopes up. Another thing was, you know, with this whole healing from diseases and conditions, you know, symptoms of ill health, that kind of, by doing a raw food diet, or, you know, diet high in raw fruits and vegetables, that kind of would indicate that the lifestyle I'm living currently is causing my problem, which is a real hard thing to accept. You know, especially if you know, for me, I thought I was, you know, doing a pretty good job. I was eating healthier than I had, you know, before in my life. I had an eating disorder, and, you know, if it got caused by my eating disorder, well, yeah, I can see that, because I was really abusing my body. But then after that, I started, you know, eating a pretty healthy diet, doing what I considered was, you know, the healthiest I'd done. So for somebody to tell me that things can be healed by eating a certain diet, because diabetes is a symptom of ill health, it's a consequence of what I'm eating. It's just kind of, it's a stab. It hurts. It's like, gosh, you know. So not just having this diabetes, but then also the guilt of feeling like I did something to cause this. Now, the other thing is, I got type 1 diabetes. I was diagnosed when I was 11. So if you think about, like, a kid getting a disease, you know, do they do something to cause it? They're just a kid. How can you tell them they need to change what they're doing? They're just a kid being a kid. So yeah, when I heard about the dairy being a suspect for type 1 diabetes, I was like, oh. You know, I was told my whole life to drink my milk because it'll make strong bones, and this is what, you know, my doctors told me. This is what everybody knew it. I mean, it's just what you do to be healthy, is you drink milk. So you know, it's a crisis of what the differing information causes a real crisis inside someone. So this will, you know, it's a block. And another thing that I had when I was first told about healing with raw foods was that I was like, okay, well, you know, once I got past that initial stuff, I was like, well, if I were to make this huge lifestyle change, I would need some real proof. You know, you told me these stories about people healing, but that's like, you know, 1 or 2 people healing from type 1 diabetes. I mean, yeah, you talked about some people healing from type 2 diabetes and isolated people here and there healing from stuff, but where is the real proof? Where are the huge studies? And, you know, the reality is there aren't huge studies, and there aren't going to be huge studies because studies take money, and there aren't huge industries backing the eat more fruits and vegetables movement, because why would somebody support that? There's no market. If I tell people to eat more fruits and vegetables, how is that going to earn me money? it doesn't. They just go to their grocery store, you know, buy it at a farm or whatever. So there just aren't going to be huge studies, and so that's a barrier. It can be a real barrier, because there are huge studies about other things that we've heard all of our life, and you know, there are smaller studies, but you know, for me, it was like, that was a lot of work to change my lifestyle, and so you've got to really, really, really convince me if you want me to change. Now, however, my story was different. You know, I did have some circumstances that made me feel compelled to give it a shot. Just my personal story. So I did give it a shot. And now I wouldn't change it. I love the life I live. I love eating a raw fruit and vegetable diet. I love how it has affected everything in my life, and I wouldn't change it. But I'm just saying that in the beginning, I didn't want to give it a shot, and I didn't want to listen to people talking about it. So I guess the conclusion is, if you've got hope and healing to share with people who have diabetes, give them some slack. You know, if you get bashed, maybe maybe take it as, okay, let me think about this. Let me think of a different way to present this information. I know that my friend presented me the information about diabetes in a way that worked for me. You know, what she did was, she had gotten a newsletter from the Botanco family, and it was devoted to diabetes, and there were 5 or 6 testimonials on there. One person who had healed from type 1, which, you know, as I said, I couldn't believe. It couldn't possibly be true. But then like 4 or 5 other people who had made great improvements and really reduced their insulin intake, and just other things. You know, I think there were some from type 2 diabetes too. But it was a newsletter, and she just forwarded it on to me and said, hey, this made me think of you. You know, what do you think? I don't know exactly what she said, but it was basically in a way that it didn't make me feel like she was telling me what to do. She wasn't saying, this is the way to go. She was saying, hey, I came across this and thought I'd pass it along. And, you know, so one thing is to ask people what their opinion is, and then you can hear their opinion, or, you know, they might be more motivated to check it out if they honestly feel like you want to hear their opinion. I know for me, I'd rather have somebody ask me that, like, could you check this out and let me know what you think, than if they said, here, I think you should read this and do this, make these changes to your life. I mean, also, because it's so much based around lifestyle, it's, you know, if someone were to tell me, you have diabetes because you're too fat, or because you eat too many fats, or whatever, it's just very personal. So getting around the, you need to do this, or you're doing things wrong, is just a really good idea, because we diabetics have a lot to deal with. A lot. We spend a lot of money on medicine, and, you know, feel crappy when things aren't going right, and realize that we can't just do whatever we want, you know. We're affected, and it's a heavy burden on diabetics. And so if you want to help diabetics, I would say, awesome, keep working on it, but just look for a way to do it where you're not coming from a place of pride or condemnation, or you know, telling people that they're doing a bad job. Because we have a lot of barriers, we diabetics do. And I think YouTube videos are fantastic, because people who are looking for information can go out there and find it. And sharing on your Facebook wall, you know, other articles or studies is also fantastic, because people can look, and if they want to read it, they can, and if not, they don't have to. And, you know, I think sharing on groups and message boards I don't know what I think about it because I don't know. The people that I've heard that have healed from their diabetes heard about it through like Forks Over Knives, you know, or from YouTube videos. They were looking for answers, and these were well-made things that presented, you know, something to consider. So just know that if you're going to post on a forum or a message board, it's probably not going to be received well, especially if you're not diabetic yourself. But don't give up trying to find creative ways to present the information, because it really saves lives, and I think we really do need to hear it. And if someone hadn't presented it to me, well, I would still be doing what I had been doing, which wasn't working. So I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for you who are trying to share the message. And please don't take it personally when we don't like what you have to say. It's just being human. So thanks for watching, and if you like this video, please click like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.